Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you a quick version of what I did today on the Art Joy of Sharing live stream show. We have an hour and a half show every Thursday over on the Art Joy of Sharing channel that is themed each week. It starts at 10:30 Central Time every Thursday. The theme for this week was Mold It, and I decided to play with a product that I saw almost 2 years ago at CHA. It took it a while to come out on the market, and it's distributed by the Ranger Company. It's called Quick Cure Clay. And this is a modeling compound that you can sculpt with and mold with. And then when you apply heat to it, it starts a chain reaction, which causes it to cure within a very short amount of time. And it doesn't cure until it has heat applied to it. So it's really good if you don't mold or sculpt stuff very often, or you just want to make some little pieces to uh, add elements to a mixed media assemblage project, which is what I'm going to do. That will be a different video. The base for it is there on the left hand side of the screen because I was working on that while I was waiting for the show to start. And I ended up spending the entire show, the entire hour and a half, basically working with this clay. So that's what this video is. If that sounds boring to you, then I would just say, move on. But I know that some people really enjoy a sped up version of the live stream. They don't have time to watch for an hour and a half as we create things live. Of course, you can always go and watch the show in the recorded version as well if you would prefer the slow time, real time version, so you can really see what's going on. This is sped up 4 times fast, so it's just a lot quicker, and you can watch more videos by watching a quick video, which is what I prefer to do, but not everyone does. So it's just kind of, your preference. So it is fun and economical to make your own elements for your assemblage projects. And I will put a couple links to other assemblage projects that I've done in the past. If you don't know what that is, some people think that that is what mixed media is. There's only assemblage. That's what mixed media means, but that's not actually true. Mixed media just means mixing up a lot of different types of art together to make one large grouping, like mixing acrylic with watercolor, mixing collage with acrylic, that's what mixed media actually means. So I decided to make a little sculpture, and I started with these little snake pieces, which are going to be kind of like stems or vines for my sculpture. And as you can see, as I'm moving that around, I applied the heat, and immediately the chemical reaction started and it became hard. So an interesting thing about this stuff is you can leave it in the package as long as you want and then use it whenever, and it never dries until this heat is applied. But see, it's already hard. So things that I noticed about it, well, actually Peg told me, she has a video too, working with this stuff. I haven't actually watched her video, and she said, by the way, you should wear gloves. She says that something in it feels like maybe fiberglass or something, like it might be stabbing your skin. She didn't enjoy that, so she told me to put on the gloves. So I put on some nitrile gloves to work with it after I had started. I didn't have any really response to it in the little bit that I did do my hands. So maybe I had put on some Art Guard lotion before I started. Maybe that helped too, but I've never worked with it before. I didn't know, and it doesn't say on the package that you should use gloves either. So I don't know if that's I I don't know. I'm not sure what's in this stuff. Um, this is the first time I've ever worked with it, but I do like the properties that it has in that it's dry instantly. You don't have to leave it overnight to dry. Now, some of the other products that I have used to make elements for my assemblage style mixed media art pieces have been things like creative paper clay. I've been using creative paper clay for years. I started using that a long, long time ago. And it's basically a paper pulp that's been mixed with some sort of a binder. And you can push it into molds. You can sculpt with it. You can sculpt onto wood or onto other things with it. I really like it. You can sand it. You can carve it. It's stuff that is really useful, and I like it a lot. And a lot of those pieces that you're seeing at the top of the screen are made with creative paper clay, the ones that look more gray colored. Paintable, you just change the color of it with paint. Same with this stuff. You change the color of it with paint. Also, something that's nice about it is that you can heat up and harden a part of it and then build on that part with the stuff that hasn't been hardened yet, and just continue to build to make, you could make a very large sculpture if you wanted to. It doesn't seem particularly brittle, but it's not pliable either. Another product out there that is very common in the store, you can buy it at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, everywhere, Target, Walmart. It's designed for kids, and it's something called Model Magic. It's made by Crayola Company, and that clay, once it's dry, still seems to be slightly spongy or pliable. So maybe you don't like that. Maybe that's not something that you want for your project, or maybe you do. It's up to you. But it turns into kind of like a rubbery, spongy plastic stuff. It's different. Then I have another one here. Some of those molded pieces are made out of, called Makin's clay. Makin's clay, they say, is a air drying polymer clay, and those pieces are hard. They're the ones that are more white, light colored in that pile there. Um, I had purchased a couple little ice cube making molds that I thought were probably silicone at Walmart for $1 each, and the first thing that I did was to press some of this quick cure clay into one of those molds and then try to pull it out to make it, to cure it. And that didn't work because when I pulled it out, it distorted the shape, probably because they're very deep. I think it would work fine with other types of push molds, like ones that you might purchase for using with fondant, for cake making, or gum paste. There's a lot of silicone molds out there that you can purchase. Of course, they're not $1, but I thought that's what maybe I was getting. So then the next thing I did, because silicone, you can allow it to get very hot. In fact, even some oven mitts and trays that you put in your pans are made out of silicone because they can stand a high amount of heat. So with that inexpensive mold, I pressed some of the clay down into the heart shape and I heated it, and it melted the mold. So those little plastic molds definitely were not silicone because they could not stand up to the heat. Once you've started the chemical reaction on this clay, and it's hardening itself, then it gets very hot. There's literally a chemical reaction that gets very, very hot in there, and you can't really touch it for a while. It needs to cool off. Of course, I continue messing with it, but really you should set it aside and let it cool down before you continue to mold on top of it. So I'm making basically a vine with some leaves and flowers. The only tools that I'm using are my hands, which I have nitro gloves. I have a little silicone shaper there. It's got a little tipped silicone piece on it, and I'm using that on the veining on my leaves. And then I'm using a heat tool, an embossing heat tool, to heat the clay at one edge, which starts the chemical reaction. So I'm just continuing to build on this piece. I'm also going to use some of those other molded pieces on my substrate there, which is to the left, and I will have a whole nother video which will show how I created a assemblage piece on that, what started out to be a piece of wood in a heart shape. that'll be a different video sometime later in the month. I don't know if it'll be a couple days or a week. Not really sure what my schedule is at the moment. But yeah, that's what I'm building this for. And I take little pieces of clay and attach, kind of roll them onto the hardened clay to attach my other pieces. I'm not doing a very good job of blending down the clay. The gloves bother me. I don't feel, I can't feel with them as well, and it's a little bit more tricky to smooth and do things like that with the gloves on. I mean, that's just how it is, gloves. Even though these are medical grade nitrile gloves, still a little bit tricky to feel through them. I did break off a piece, and I'm not sure if I had a weak spot or if it wasn't all the way cured or what, but I just decided to use it on the other side and make a more interesting composition anyway than having just the two snake pieces that I had originally. I thought it looked fine broken off and added to a different section, so I did that. Um, I formed a rose type flower by starting with a cone and then wrapping little flat round petals around the bottom like you would if you were um, doing it with fondant or paper. You can make roses this way. I'm sure you guys have all seen that. And I'm making another smaller one that I thought originally was going to be a bud, but it ended up being just kind of a smaller, less open rose. And then I'm making lots of sizes of leaves and drawing with the sculpting tool down the middle and then making little veins and spreading them out. So I did this for pretty much an hour and a half, but you're only seeing a small portion of it because I've sped it up so fast. And I thought when I received this package of clay that it wasn't very much clay, but I have revised my thought process. It's a huge amount. I mean, I've barely used anything to make this little element for my piece. So I think I could make a lot of stuff out of it. And yeah, so this is pretty much my experience with quick cure clay distributed by Ranger. I actually met the scientist at CHA who invented it. He had a separate booth from Ranger, but then I guess he got Ranger to distribute it for him because that's easier to have a big company distribute for you than to try to distribute and sell through your own website and things like that. Pretty revolutionary stuff. I will say that I don't like the smell of it, and it does give off a little bit of a fume or a smoke, uh, which is a little bit, it gave me a bit of a headache. So I would say use it in a well ventilated area with a fan or with your windows open. It's cold outside today, unseasonably cold in Arizona. So I did not want to open my window because I didn't want to freeze myself. Um, and I also didn't have the ceiling fan on either, nor the door open because my dog Mika would then go and explore, and I wanted her to stay in the studio with me. Although all she did was just lay down on her blanket and go to sleep. So she spent the entire time sleeping and not bothering anyone. She was a very good girl today. I gave her a rawhide chew as a reward for being a good girl. Of course, she has no idea why she's getting a chew. She's just getting it and she's happy about it. She spent about an hour chewing it up. So yeah, that's life with Mika. So I've added a few more leaves. Not everything was attached really well, and I wasn't thinking I would sit around and attach all of it with the clay. I would just be gluing it onto my piece anyway, so I didn't worry about getting everything all attached to the piece because I'm just going to glue it down. It's not a big deal. And this will be lightened with white gesso, and then everything will be covered with white gesso before I add color back into it, like you do with assemblage mixed media, which I'm going to get done sometime soon. It's almost, well, it's not almost February, but February is the next month coming up, and this would be a good gift for someone who likes the romantic idea of Valentine's Day with flowers and things like, a mom or a grandma or a wife or a daughter or something like that. So it will be that style when it's finished. So I hope you've enjoyed this speed up of the live stream. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or question below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I have a little modeling and sculpting list thing set up on my Amazon storefront if you want to go look for the Makin's clay or the Quick Cure clay or the Model Magic clay or the paper clay, any of those things, molds, things like that. So that's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.